Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Earth Body Consciousness. Great to have you on board with us all today. Feel very blessed that you are here and joining us, and very, very blessed to have a dear brother, that's going to come along and talk with us. Hirini is new to me in my life. We connected a week ago, actually, through a mutual friend, and we come together and we feel we have some similar things to share. So he's got an amazing background with his journey of spiritual awareness and connection with the earth. So welcome, brother. Wonderful to have you here.
Kia ora. Greetings to all your listeners and to all things that are happening in this moment. There's a lot going on, but we focus on where we are right now, right here. Blessings. Kia ora, tēnā koe.
Kia ora. Yeah, we just had an interesting journey on starting this podcast. So for some reason it wouldn't connect, and Hirini couldn't get on, and then we played with a few things that didn't work, and then I decided to use my phone and got him on Zoom on my phone, and then invited myself onto my laptop and then closed the phone, and here we are. So because I can use my transcriber, which is really important to share the messages that come through. So that's been a bit of a journey. So yeah, things are at play, but we got here.
Yeah, it's symbolic of how we're having to go through alternate personas, channels. As you were introducing me, there was an old phone ringing over towards my right, left as you look at it from the screen. And it reminds me of the matrix with the old phone ringing, and you're having to transform into a new signal. And this is symbolic now of how we need to be able to handle all the different connections and still find a channel that can communicate. So this is symbolic of what's happening around the planet with terms of consciousness, in terms of a whole range of things, but we still find the one that connects in that moment.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you bring everything into that symbolic nature, and what I learned very quickly with the very short time that we spent, because it was just an hour or maybe 2 hours max, a couple of hours, how you were always observing your environment and noticing the sounds, the movements of others, and where people were placed and everything. So it's really beautiful how you relate to everything like that.
Yeah, it's part of my background, and this is all of us. Part of is to awaken the tracker, the scout, the antenna of oneself, so that you're absorbing multiple inputs, but being able to navigate it in a harmonious way, not always harmonious. And that's sort of part of one of my philosophies at this point in time is developing the seer. Each person will develop your own set of extrasensory awareness. For some people, they can see things, they can see auras, they can see other things. Forgive me, but other people, forgive my language, don't see shit. That's what one person said to me, Hirini, I don't see shit, which is nice because that's firm. But that person had their own unique ways. But I remember a certain fragrance, smelling carnations, and that was the smell of my grandmother always used to love carnations. So for that person, one of the primary triggers was fragrance. For others, they see geometries, crystal structures, but others you have to find it could be a sound. It could be just a knowingness. Some people are good at technology. Others, like myself, sometimes I just use my phone. It's not the most advanced. I've used it to type my doctorate thesis on when I've been walking the country. I just type it on the phone, keep it in Google Keep, and I just transfer it. I don't, you know what I mean? We make do. So part of this awareness is also making do with what you have. Making do with what you have. It may not be the best. There are imperfections, but you make the best with what you've been given, what you have at that time.
Yes, and you also, it's good that you pointed that out because you also live very simplistically.
As part of my background, I was an army officer, a veteran, and grown up in a very rural space of the east coast of Mount Hikurangi. And so part of that learning was that we were homeschooled, we had no electricity, was basically cooking by a fire, candles, and you soon learn like that's the sound of the bellbird that opens the day. And so when you hear those particular birds, that was our birds. Out here, I'm hearing at this place where I am, I'm hearing the pikahukahu, which is basically the sparrow, a different type of chirping. And so from that sort of awareness and also seeing the mountains when you come out your back door, it's different to seeing perhaps a street or a building or in an urban area. When you see mountains coming out your back door, you can also intuit what the day may be because there's certain clouds, there's a certain perhaps weather indicator, as well as also noting if the sun is shining on the mountain, ooh, the sun's there. So we all have our own adaptations based on where we've grown up and so forth. So that's just something that I like to add, as you were mentioning about the observations and so forth.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And what a beautiful way to yeah, I feel to get in touch with yourself and that connection with nature to live something so simplistic from a young age and to have that must be such a blessing because nowadays especially many of us come into the world and there's so much technology and busyness and this and that that's pulling at us. So to be able to bring that back into your center and then through your training as well in the army and everything else, that really helps you to have that connection. And how do you bring that to people? Like, do you have avenues where you can teach others?
Yeah, I have. It's sort of taken me, I'm into my 60th year now. And sometimes you have all this type of skills, but you got to walk it in your own life sometimes. And so where I'm going now is I want to be able to share these type of things, basically awaken it in people. And so as part of my like even these type of Zoom and so forth, is for people to hear echoes of their own story, of their own identity in somebody else's story. We can do the walk, but the walk is more that this is my walk. You may hear echoes of my walk in yourself, in your journey, but you have to walk your own path, your own soul, and notice the authenticity. In this time now, we're having to discern between, and it's ironic that we're having the connection issues with the laptop not being able to talk to the cell phone. And that's a certain symbolism there. But when you and I started to Zoom on the cell phones decided to open a channel. But for some reason, my cell phone didn't like the laptop. And so I'm laughing at that. But we learn to be able to find what is the unique channel. Is the bellbird. Is the ruru, the owl. They have the appropriate songs at the appropriate times of day and night. And sometimes when some channels or songs are outside of their own natural rhythm or season, that's when we find we need to reset. We need to find the rhythm and know which song and which sound and which laptop and which cell phone is able to be part of a connection that has a season, that has a rhythm, that has a soul. People are looking for the soul frequency which echoes to themselves to say, I am living a way that is authentic. I am saying a voice that my voice is authentic. It hasn't been shut down by relationships or economics or environment. And I'm also in season with my own natural rhythm. And I sense you do that with the way you live your life and why you've chosen to create this podcast so you can help others to be authentic in their voice and to live in a way and a season that is in alignment with who they are.
Yeah, for sure. It's important that we do bring our voice, out to the world. We all have a unique codex and blueprint and expression. And like you mentioned, it has been suppressed, from a young child, often, especially being a bit different and asking questions and mum and dad are busy and it's not that they're bad people, that it's just life's life. And it's important that we do find avenues and ways to find our own expression, because we all have an important role to play within the collective and assisting humanity and the earth. I feel that's vital for every one of us who's on the planet now in this time that's so precious and so special and so unique, that we're really coming home to ourselves.
So true, really coming home to ourselves. And there is both the question and the quest is coming home to the self. And so this is the time, because externally there is so much uncertainty now, such that people are asking, life, is this what life is? Is there not something more significant? Is there not some more purposeful meaning? I found that when I was walking Aotearoa, as you and I were talking the other day, sensing the land, but also sensing the pain, seeing the laceration of the forests. Where is the songbird to sing anymore? I am up in the northern part in Waipu, and I'm walking along the beaches, which are still beautiful. On the east coast, where I've come from, it's been all devastated with slash pine tree debris, such that it's even killing rather the seafood beds because of all the sediment and the slash. And up here in the north, where you are as well, the beaches are so pristine and beautiful. That's where sometimes both the beauty and the beast of being an Aotearoa can occur. And so as part of our awakening is observing what I call the beauty and the beast, and finding the wisdom to transform and find the polarities. Because sometimes too much beauty can lead to stagnation, can lead to complacency. And then the beast turns up, and too much beast leads to devastation, destruction. But they can lead to a renewal. It can lead to a wisdom that's born of pain. Not everything comes with pleasurable downloads and alms. Sometimes a fall over in the mud can make you be enlightened. Just make sure you don't fall over in the mud again.
Yeah, for
Or
sure,
stepping
sure.
on dog shit. Yeah, stepping on dog shit. And, God, I need to be more aware where I stand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love how you mentioned that, because, it's up to us to see how we respond, or we could say respond or react to a situation. So if you did step in dog shit, how do you respond to that? And seeing, have I got caught into an emotion? Am I angry? Am I annoyed? Am I frustrated? Okay, where does that come from? We can explore that, and like you say, something like that can bring you enlightenment as long as you relate to it from a conscious place, and it can happen in any moment. And also, like, I love what you say, because yeah, for me, I've seen it firsthand. It's not all rainbows and unicorns in the spiritual realms. That's a bit of an illusion. And it actually, when you come on your journey, from asking these deeper questions and more meaningful way of living, it actually gets harder because you start to realize all the things that don't serve you, and you have to start changing and unlearning everything that you learned, and relating and taking ownership and really looking seriously at yourself. You know, we are incredible creators and we have the ability to create anything, whether we're conscious of it or not.
So true, so true. And part of this is when I was doing my walking and so forth, I was doing it for reasons bigger than myself. I was carrying a flag of 1,000 faces, portraits of a Maori battalion, and I was walking the country in memorial, not just for the war, but for the mothers who had lost their sons' families. Also for those things, those old places, stockyards, hills, and even the animals as well, because they lamented the loss of their owners. Dogs whose owners never came back, horses that once remembered a young rider who no longer is able to pat it and put the bridle on it and brush it. Those things too have a resonance and a lingering. And so that was part of my role, my work, and it was very solitary. But what came out of it was that, for me, was the transformation of the military soldier into more of the spiritual warrior, into more of the benevolent healer, the benevolent being that's able to deal with both the beauty and the beast and still find the harmony. And I believe this is more important now as we protect the life force of the planet now. We all have to become planetary guardians, using the body, this face, this breath, this life as our vessel, as our embodiment. You can turn your life into a holy pilgrimage, even if you're moving through the dog shit, even if you're homeless. It's not about the surface of your life. It's about the substance within. And if we purify and cultivate that, a star will come out and appear, not in a sort of constellation way, but in a presence that you actually have a connection way beyond the borders of our body and the barriers of our mind and brain. And so this is something that is for people as they transform, leave some of the old clothing behind, some of the old things, they may get a bit faded and take on something new, but you still got the memory of the old as wisdom as you go on to the new. And that's when I mentioned about him being in my 60th year now. And I'm reminded of a great samurai swordsman called Miyamoto Musashi, who was such a great, undefeated, but he said he was only in his 50th year that he realized basically the philosophy and the spirituality of his mastery of the sword was no longer about defeating the foe. It was actually coming into himself and finding peace within himself and using the elements as the instructors. And I thought that was something quite wise as we go through our journey of life and seeking to have those levels of indicators so that we can know when to let go of the youth and become the mature parent, when we know to let go of the parent and seek to become the elder, and how we can actually use these stages of our own journey until we reach that final stage where this body has served its time, this face, this breath returns to the earth, and we continue in another constellation, embodiment, whatever that happens. And so this is part of that.
Yeah, beautiful. It's, I feel you're just talking about the essence of life, you know, it's to see that there's many stages, and as we honor each one, they have a purpose, and they support us to be where we are here today. And from this moment, you know, we feel into who am I at this moment and what is my expression, knowing that at some point that will change as I evolve.
Yeah, you've articulated well, and I'm sure with the others, guests on your podcast, there will be echoing of similar themes, but coming from a different pathway or a different life, so that we can experience the diversity of different lives, but the unity of having lived. We all must live our lives. There are imperfections. There are moments of regret. There are all the highs and lows, but within that is also the pride that in some cases you have lived your life authentically. I may not have all the wonders and the testaments and the degrees, but I've been authentic to myself. It may not have pleased others. In fact, I might not have complied with the government and all those things. But how can you comply with something that's unethical? How can you comply with something that's immoral? Something that's devastating the land just for the mere increases in profit and economic well-being? These are some of the things, forgive me, but it hurts like shit sometimes. And we're getting conditioned, and this is where perhaps with the AI and others, because humanity is reaching a point now, we're not really certain why we exist. And we just keep on going over, cultivating the same old economic conditioning. And then you reach the end of your life wondering, why did I live? Why haven't I ever lived? Who knows where this insanity has been given to us? It is called normal. I just think there's a better way.
Yeah, it's a crazy world, isn't it, when we start to see it from that place, you know. And I feel you're talking about kind of asking those harder questions in ourselves, when we've been so driven by the way society is and living in that environment, and to just know and have a feeling that, something doesn't feel right, it doesn't align, I don't know what it is, but just having that willingness to ask, to self-inquire, to ask within myself, what is this actually feeling? What is it saying to me? What is it showing? What can I do with it? Where can I go with it? And it's not to totally remove yourself from society, I feel, or um, putting too much condemning or anything on it. It's just to recognize it's not in alignment and there is something else I can do. And through that, from a heart place, then we move forward from that conscious place and look at um, choices that we can make that within even going shopping, where do I go shopping? What products do I want to support? What companies or not support, and just finding some kind of harmony within those things as well, and seeing beyond what's in front of you, what we actually are supporting.
So true, my friend. And this is where the awareness is important. Sometimes we've been so sedated, we've been so marketed to, educated to, that we actually live by default until the big wind or the big cyclone or the big burn happens. Then we realize there are greater things than just laws of man being put in place. When we reach those points of a breakdown, which is what's happening, we're seeing the breakdown so that we can have a breakthrough and a break free. And so this is the appropriate time now to start to explore these questions of self-inquiry. And from within that self-inquiry is to actually look at yourself as being a soul that is actually in a new role. A soul, in its life, we have the soul, but we have many roles. Growing up, being a child of a certain family, and leaving that family and creating a family of your own. These roles are all part of the journey of this life. But the soul within sometimes, and I just remarked as an elderly lady who was just basically at this table here said the other day, she's in her 70s now. She's a grandmother and having been a mother, but now she's in a camper van just traveling around. and she wants to spread joy. And she said, I just want to be authentic now. I've done all the roles. I just want to do something that seems like in alignment with my soul. And it's like a modern day pilgrim. And I'm sure you appreciate these sentiments as well. And so my feeling, and I'm sure others too, is this is a great time for us to re-explore how we can be as individuals within this embodiment and find our appropriate niche. Just like in nature, there are things that have their appropriate niche, but then their diversity, they actually create the ecology of life. And so find your niche that allows you to be respected and encouraged to be the gift that you are. Every person has a gift. They're here for a reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist. You wouldn't exist. So allow your existence to be a reason for saying, I'm still here. This breath has not completed its journey yet. And that's the self, like the word aho in Maori is basically my breath. Aho, this is who I am. From our first breath to our last gasp. I call it the walk of aho, the walk of self, the walking breath. Because each breath that I'm using right now will not come again. And there will come a time when the last breath will go on its way. And that's the signal for me having concluded the journey in this embodiment. But my time is not here yet. And so I must continue to use this breath that's been given to me to allow the aroha, which means basically the expression of ha or life, so that you can be part of the great ecology of creation. The tree of life starts from within ourselves in many cases, and with many others that are part of the breath, the life force. So these are just some of my thoughts as you mentioned, how people have to find their own way of seeking their way within the complexity of the world.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, and it's like you say before about my podcast, that's part of it. It's to help people have their own expression and have a platform where other people can come and listen. And I know for sure the things that you're expressing will speak to some deeper than others. There'll be something that you've shared or someone else on another podcast has shared that is that spark for someone, that little thing where they weren't really aware of, or maybe they were curious towards and but weren't sure what it was, and then someone else presents it, and it's for me everything that we choose is an invitation for others to choose that as well. So to look at coming from a conscious place, and even myself, creating this podcast was difficult in the sense that it brought some things up for me. It brought some emotions up around being seen. You know, do I know what I'm doing? Can I present correctly, whatever correctly is? All these stories that happen within the whole realms of being professional, or yeah, even just being seen and speaking our truth and everything that comes from that through this life and past lives. Um, but yeah, if I just say, well, even if I'm a bit hesitant or a bit scared and I do it, I help myself move beyond that fear, which is an invitation for anyone else who needs or looking to move beyond any kind of fear, whatever that could be, to be an artist, to be a singer, to be a dancer, to be a poet, to be a teacher of whatever kind. And I love what you shared, because what it's how it speaks to me is when we do come with our unique gifts, that thing that we have that we've come here to share, then we do come into that collective. And because not all of us are builders or bread makers or gardeners, we all actually have a place in the whole. And each one of us, as we express that true expression of who we are, we assist each other. And then everyone who's able to do that and is in the allowance of that, then you don't have to do all these chores and tasks, because you have your brothers and sisters around you, wherever that is, who are offering their unique gifts, and we all just, yeah, we're all nourished, and then we're in that connection of unity, of humanity, of earth, of the stars, of consciousness, everything, all together as one.
Yeah, I support you and salute you for what you're doing, as you said, making this podcast. There are many others, echoing many others who will probably be similar, who want to do studio. So let your example inspire them. Let them go. They may want to become a journalist or something, writing about some of the things that need to be written about. Be a voice for the lacerated forests. Be a voice for the bird that can no longer sing anymore because they no longer are here. That was the huia. And I only learned that whistle because a Maori tracker in the 1940s, 1950s had recorded from his elders the huia call. And so we can be part of that sound or song or that philosophy which is no longer here can be recovered again and resung and revoiced. So allow your podcast to be a way of allowing the voice to be authentic and sing the songs of the birds to become part of the voice of nature again. And that's perhaps what your niche is, whereas others may be more suitable with the weaving and speaking with their hands and doing the work, the weaving. And the irony is that the word ngahere, which is the Maori word for forest, but ngahere also means the many threads. So the forest is a woven canopy of the many micro threads of life. And as you know, when they're using the term dieback, it's basically those threads of life being unwoven, being torn, and we start to see the devastation happening in the environment. And so if we can start to reweave the environment in ways, and starting with the energy, reweaving a new energy field from which we can find a new ecology, a new ngahere for humanity and the earth itself.
Yes, using our words in a supportive way. That's what I feel that's about, like being selective of the words we use when we express ourselves. And of course, it's important to know where it's coming from, the heart or the head. However, I feel we, even from a semi-conscious place, let's say, we can misuse words in a way that we create something that we're not aware of, because we're still, um, like they say with the carry dieback. They mean well in the sense of having an awareness that there's this disease. But for me, calling it a dieback is just enhancing it. So if we were more conscious, we would give it a name where it's called carry flourish. The curry's flourishing, and just being aware that there's something we need to do to help it flourish, rather than giving it this name. Um, but I love how you talk about the birds and the whistle and the voice of the birds, and you shared with me the day we came together last week how with your walk, you walk with intention, and with each step, and you call in, say, the mountain, and yeah, I loved how you shared that. So could you share that with the audience? I won't go into it anymore. I'll let you do it, because I found it fascinating.
Yeah, kia ora. That was for the audience. I've walked twice the length of Aotearoa, New Zealand, for a number of spiritual reasons. It's like different directions have a different story. You can cover the same path, but if you cover it in different ways, different directions, that same path will elicit a different story. Too often we go through the one direction of life and not understand what is the opposite that's happening to your life right now. Within the walk, I would always count my footsteps as part of my own metric to know. And I quickly shared with Jacob that every 24 paces is a roughly 20 meters. And I'll use my fingers just to click off 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 200, 300, and using 10 fists. Now, during that walk of 10 fists, which is about 1,000 steps or more, actually it's 1,000 meters, but it's about 1,240. I would bring in at the beginning, let a mountain come into me, and with each step, let me be a walking mountain. Hikurangi, the mountain that I saw when I was a boy with your sunlight. I remember you in this moment as I'm walking. And then I would walk each step, each finger would be like the mountain filling my embodiment, my fingertips. So when I got to that 10 fists, I had grasped the mountain feeling. Now, as a comparison, walking as a mountain is different to walking as a river. So I would call the river. And between each stage, I would also walk it out for the next 1,000 meters or next 1,200 steps. I would walk out the mountain until I reached a point of neutrality again. Walking as a mountain is different to walking as a river. You'll feel an energetic difference. And so if you're doing this, just go and do it one day along a beach or somewhere so that you can walk with that level of awareness without having to go too much and avoid the tree or the slip because you're wanting to imbue it. Walking as a river, you feel the flow of the river coming to you. So your body is a lot more having the curve. At night, I would walk at night, I would look at the star above me and call to a star, let you come down and rest within me as well. And in that moment, I would feel as if I'm actually floating. And so what you're doing with this, Jacob, is using your body as like a walking meditation, a walking immersion, integration into an elemental elder. Then that you can then calibrate and also be respectful so that you learn to bring these elements in and you learn to actually let them go in a way so that we don't hoard too much of the elemental powers. We can be quite humble and call them in when we need to, and then allow them to go back out. Some of these things we need the humility to remind us because too much power, and I can sense that there have been people who've done such things to go and gain the power of certain mountains, to go and gain the power of certain sacred places. That's happened before. Allow these things to be there for all to share and allow it to be within the audience. Just to add one more addendum to this walk, you can also bring in your ancestors as well as you walk. And so for that, I would have the Maori battalion and I would have this feeling that we've got this great column. Then I said, Geronimo, you are on my right. Others, Sitting Bull, Su. I said, even Knight Templars, you're part of this as well. Let us all walk in a way that we're walking for the greatness, the goodness of our Mother Earth. This ocean that is to my right, the high grounds to my front, and the forest to my left, and the sand beneath our feet. Let us be walking as oneness for all these elemental gifts that have been given to us. And yeah, it's like, whoa, you're sort of high-fiving each other, one for a better word. So just to give context and meaning to what you just said, I share this with yourself and others so that they can have their own experience. Walk it in and walk it out.
Wow. I just love it. I love it so much. You know, like it's been so present. Yeah, with yourself, of course, like calling that one aspect in that one part of life, that a mountain or a river, and getting to experience it as though you are it is something really special. You know, I just feel it resonates with me, and I feel on some degree I've done it at times, and not as consciously like you do. Um, so when you shared that with me, it really spoke to me on a deep level. And how you also walk it out, you know, I find that really special as well because that's, you know, you're still honoring yourself and then you're just honoring that connection that, you know, we are this human vessel and yet at the same time we are nature, you know, and we're everything within nature. And, you know, we birth through the mother, we conceive through the stars, through the sun, you know, so we already have that connection. And doing that, what I get from it is just to reconnect that, you know, to enhance that connection that's already there. But we're so busy in life, we don't really give ourselves those moments to embrace that and to come back to that. And I feel it can give us so much, you know, it's so much remembrance and bringing us more into alignment with that natural world. And therefore, from that place, we will get that inspiration or that insight to express ourselves instead of this busyness that's around us, you know, that's always pulling at us. So yeah, it's really special. And I don't want to talk too much into it because I just feel the feeling is really what it's about, you know, the
Yeah,
experience.
feeling about it. Now I'll share because I also had another point that for those ones who aren't able to walk physically, or there comes a time where, and I feel this is the time now where we can still keep walking, but we walk in a way that it's out of the body. And this I feel is where we need to set point of a time where we actually can walk in a way out of the body so that our soul can visit these mountains, can visit these rivers, these places, and make a significant impact using the soul or the spiritual, going beyond the physical walking. It's called the spirit walk. And so this is some of the things that I'm hoping to, even just myself, so that I'm able, and this has been something that sort of used in a group where we can actually uplift ourselves, be able to gather and walk together, to go to places that need healing, to places that need the love, and become like soul angels and be able to come back and there congregate.
Beautiful,
And
brother.
so, yeah, I just as you appeared again, and this is a beautiful, because what you just did just then was moving the physical out of the visual such that it's still present. And so what I was doing about the walk is moving from the physical walk into more of the spiritual footprint or the spiritual walk where we can actually be in the body but start to walk out into to see the mountain, to go to the river, to go as a group that I mentioned with all the elders to a place that needs healing. When we can start to bring that forward now so that we can move not just in the physical anymore, we can start to move at a soul level and allow there to be a gathering of stars like souls that are giving that energy to that place that needs the love. There are many places now that, without mentioning names, where there is a lot of violence and pain and devastation. A gentle, loving energy that comes over the people for that moment, they feel embraced and loved, and there's an energy field that surrounds them and embraces them. This is how I'm feeling with the next evolution of the walk, is to become a spirit walker, a walking breath. Ironically, I'm thinking of Skywalker and the Star Wars type trilogy, but bringing that type of walking down into a benevolent way of sharing the soul force, or one for a better word.
Yeah, it is. It's bringing that light through, isn't it? So the cyber light, and cutting through all that darkness, because there's so much that has happened through history and times, and that a lot of it's still fragmented and hasn't been acknowledged. That's what I find when I'm walking, is there's areas where you can feel the densities within the land and the hurt and the trauma, and it needs to be acknowledged. Sometimes for me, it's voicing that aspect of it through in tones or sounds or even language, light language, and speaking it. And sometimes it can be quite harsh, but it's part of just expressing it, so it can be moved through the land, and then bringing that light through and bringing it all back into balance, back into the harmony of how it was originally meant to be. How it was originally created within harmony and beauty and love. And then, yeah, I just find for myself, when I was walking, that I just had moments where I needed to stop or stay, and it could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be a day or 2 days. And sometimes I felt like I was doing a lot, and other times I felt like I was just there, and it was happening. And it's beautiful when I feel, there are more and more people doing this conscious way of walking and working with the land. And it's not always a long walk. It could just be a gathering, that we're recognizing the support Mother Earth needs from us and we need from her.
Yeah, so true. I want to acknowledge your walk, because in this type of thing, you can actually not go far, but you can go deep. Sometimes the walk doesn't need to be physically far, but it can actually be spiritually or energetically deep. I sense with your walking, it wasn't so much the distance, but the depth of awareness, and what you were doing as you were walking that small distance was actually doing that level of regeneration, reconnecting the elemental beings and giving them a voice and also an echo. The human form is starting to remember its reason for existence, no longer becoming the dominant species on this planet and treating it like basically a commodity, treating it like a resource when it is the source of life, not a resource to be mined and harnessed in a way such that where is the life force to continue after the commodity has been exhausted? What happens when the minerals that are part of the Earth's body have all been depleted and the Earth is slowly like a depleted being? That is why we do the walk. And the walk doesn't need to be a long walk, doesn't need to be all. Each one will have their own destiny why they walk along a distance. But now I'm feeling the irony of the name of the walk in Aotearoa is called Tairawhiti, which means the long trail. But that long trail up the north also connects into the Aotearoa, which is the spirit path. So part of it is part of the spirit path. And I sense this is where the spirit path, you've actually walked the spirit path when you came down from the top down to Atohe, the 90-mile beach, and these other areas you reached. That's all part of the actual spirit trip. And so what's been doing there is that, in my opinion, you've been affirming the spiritual significance of the walk. And not all may be able to walk the distance, but walk with that level of intensity such that you may only walk for 1 or 2 days, but you're walking with a holy cause that's worthy of walking a lifetime. It's not the distance. Some people walk far and shallow, others walk short and deep. You must find what's appropriate for you as part of your spiritual. That's just my opinion on some of these things, so that people can do a spiritual walk inside their daily walk of life, inside their own lives. Make a part of it a spiritual time where you don't even have to walk as a metaphor, but you're making a spiritual movement of thought, of breath, of aroha. And so that's, in my opinion, has been part of the basis and the benefits of having done my walks. I realize it's not about the walk anymore. It's about a way of helping your spiritual offering to be shared.
Yes, beautiful, brother. Yes. Yeah, that it's a state of being, isn't it? You know, it's what you're expressing and knowing that purposefulness within it. And it's totally bang on what you say, you know, like the deep walk, you know, to walking or not walking, to just have a gathering or a conscious meditation, you know, wherever you are at home even, or to just have that intent to help align and bring things back into harmony in a purposeful way. And yeah, I feel that was how my walk was, and I had some intention around it. Um, I kind of didn't have any goal of how long it would be, or you know, I'm going to walk the whole North Island, the whole Aotearoa, or anything. It was just like I walk until I feel like I need to stop, and and that's what this part is, and I feel the call to go walking again, but just into certain areas it feels like, and how much I walk while I'm there, it does. I get an aspect of there will be actually quite a bit of sitting. There will be some motionless walking in a sense, you know, and then maybe even finding a cave or something and sitting in a cave for a while. You know, that's been coming into my dream time the last wee while. And I don't know where that is or what that looks like, but I just open myself and surrender to allow consciousness to flow through me in my own unique expression. And I feel really blessed to have the opportunity to be able to do that, you know, to be in a place where I feel supported in the areas of life that I need to nurture me, and within that I have the opportunity to have whether you call it freedom, I'm not sure. It can be freedom to be able to go and do these things, um, because it also has required me to do a lot of work to get to this place of freedom, let's call it, you know, to be able to just walk the land and not have a 9 to 5 job. You know, I'm in a place where I don't have financial commitments of others that have chosen that, and that has been my choice and my way of expressing myself in my life at this stage anyway, to this stage. Whether it'll continue like that, you know, and now even my car decided to pack up, and I just went, actually, I wasn't even thinking of walking, but someone else mentioned it, and now I've kind of feel like, yeah, maybe that is for me. So, you know, if I don't have a car, then walking's ideal. It just aligns up. So, yeah, and it's been so nice to just have a backpack. I actually have felt that for quite some time, to just, you know, I live a pretty simple life, but to just bring it right down to just you and your backpack and your tent, and going where you land, and hitching again as well has been really amazing. And the people I've met, just incredible, you know, like absolutely gifts. Every meeting I have has been such a gift. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I
thank
just
you.
want to, yeah. So as we close this one, so, as we close this one, I just want to, just to, yeah. So as we close this one, so, as we close this one, I just want to, just to, yeah. So as we close this one, so, as we close this one, I just want to, just to, yeah. So as we close this one, so, as we close this one, I just want to, just to, yeah. So as we close this one, It's a time of awareness now. And ironically, we started speaking about Star Wars, Skywalker, Jedi, the cyber lightsaber to be a symbol of awareness. You're only as sharp as your awareness. And then you become as strong as the steel of your spirit. You must then walk like any Jedi Knight or equivalent. But we are also walking now because there is, and the irony is, there is the emergence when Trump came in, there's the emergence now of the Stargate, the affiliation of AI and other things, which sort of interesting as we start to talk about the awakening of the force, the soul force, the spiritual power within ourselves. Regardless of your embodiment, you still have that force. And let's do the walking, or as a way, a metaphor, let's do the breathing of life and living it in your own way, in your own niche, in your own house, in your own body. Learn to find peace within yourself. Don't extend it too much out into the outworld where it gets confused each time you go outer. Just keep your own inner place, your inner peace, and then walk it and put it in other places as well. So I'm just seeing that we're coming to the hour now. So if there's anything else you would like to ask me or just finish on, I believe that's sufficient what we've seen.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you shared that. And yeah, no, I'll just throw it over to you. Like whatever you want to finish on, if you have something that you'd like to touch on for the audience before we finish up this beautiful conversation up, brother. I appreciate anything you wish to share.
We have a saying, a thing called the karapuroto, the first impulse. Allow yourselves to find that first impulse which echoes your authenticity and truth before you start to get the second and third thoughts, which start to reason, which start to contain that full thought. And so use that so that it allows you to maintain the authenticity of your sovereignty of self. I am here to help in whatever way. And I know I'm laughing because, at the end of every podcast or everything, there's a sales pitch. Peeps, just read my bio. There's something there. If you're called to connect with me, please do. But most of all, connect with who you are and let that be the amplifying force. And then we can actually high five each other as we move through the spiritual topography of life. All right, then, peeps. Okay, that's all, Jacob. Sorry.
Awesome,
Yeah.
brother. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Kia ora. Thank you so much. It's
Okay.
been a real pleasure to have you shine your light with us and share your wisdom and your life experiences. Yeah, it's all very touching and very precious and unique to you and you show the way for us all to just be unique to ourselves and honor who we truly are. And I'm grateful for that in this conversation. And thank you. Yes, thank you, brother.
Yeah. Let's just all keep in touch. Let's help each other on our walks. But we all got to do the walk ourselves. You
For
can't
sure,
carry
for
me.
sure.
Yeah, you can't carry me on my walk because I've got to do it myself. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've got to do the work, not just talk about it. All right, then.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Okay.
Stay strong.
Okay.
And we'll see each other
Thank you,
soon.
man. And
Okay.
thank you everyone for listening in. Really appreciate you all coming with us today and I hope this has touched you in some way and yeah, really grateful for you all and may you all go well and sending you so much love. Take care.